Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into NB12, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news. It was a big PLP campaign promise, but the Minister of Health says national health insurance might not be able to be implemented within 1 year. We'll tell you why. Funeral plans for the victims of the Cozy Time boating disaster. Cheryl Grant Bathel and her legal team still hoping she gets the Director of Public Prosecutions post. Plus, did the Bahamas help bring about elections in Turks and Caicos Islands? We'll tell you in an interview with that country's top politicians. We've got those stories and so much more coming up. I'm Paige McCartney, and NB12 starts right now. NB12. The government has not yet set a date for the implementation of the long-promised national health insurance. However, there's a possibility it may not happen within the Christie administration's first year in office as promised on the campaign trail. Minister of Health Dr. Perry Gomez said today that the program will only be introduced during that time frame if the country's unemployment rate decreases. He made that revelation after touring the Sandilands Rehabilitation Center this morning. Vonnie Toot has more.
Before the May 7th general election, the Progressive Liberal Party promised to implement national health insurance within its first year in office if elected. However, the Minister of Health revealed today that the government will not be able to keep its promise if our economy does not improve.
If the level of unemployment remains as high as it is today, then it wouldn't make sense to start it.
According to the November 2011 Labor Force Survey, this country's unemployment rate increased to 15.9%. Unemployment in Grand Bahama rose to 21.2%, while the rate in New Providence increased to 15.1%. In the speech from the throne, the government pledged to take steps to advance this nation's preparations for the introduction of national health insurance in a financially sustainable way. As recently as this month, Health Minister Dr. Perry Gomez reaffirmed the government's commitment to implementing the comprehensive health plan within year one. However, he told reporters today it just does not make sense to set an implementation date until economic conditions improve.
We have to wait till the circumstances are right in terms of the economy, the level of unemployment comes down, and so on, because it's a paying scheme and it involves everybody participating.
NHI's aim is to make health care more affordable. The former Christie administration passed the relevant legislation but was voted out of office in 2007 before the initiative could be implemented. Dr. Gomez explained that national health insurance would be funded by contributions similar to national insurance. Some people consider it to be a new tax, but Gomez says think of it as a benefit.
The difference is it's funded on a percentage of your income, and its income was in the proposal that we wrote was income up to $60,000 per annum, and it's a small percentage, 3 to 4%, if I remember, towards national health insurance, and of whatever you make, whether it's $10, $100, up to $60,000. Huh? And that's the way the contributions towards NHI will be garnered. And that's what makes it equitable.
Gomez was unable to say if NHI would replace the National Prescription Drug Plan introduced under the Ingram administration. However, he said the program would remain in place until the government makes a decision. The cost of national health insurance was initially projected at around $235 million annually. However, that figure is expected to increase. The health minister says the government has not yet estimated how much it will cost to implement NHI. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonnie Toot.
Well, we'll tell you more about Sandilands upgrades in a few minutes, but first, the 11 Haitian nationals whose bodies were pulled from the small boat that went down in Abaco during a human smuggling mission earlier this month will soon be laid to rest. Here's Nakia DeVoe with details on the funerals.
It's been 2 weeks since those 11 bodies were retrieved from Abaco waters, and only 4 of them have been identified. That leaves 7 unidentified victims. But despite that fact, pastors have come together with the Haitian embassy to ensure that all those victims get buried with dignity. Father Elaine Laverne, priest at Our Lady's Catholic Church, says that the religious community has a moral obligation to give the unidentified victims a proper burial. He said they're not willing to wait any longer for family members to come forward and identify the 6 unknown women and the little girl. The 4 young boys were identified by family members last week Wednesday, and thanks to a kind gesture from that family, the 11 victims will have a joint funeral.
No one came forth to identify those 7 bodies, and we have a family that who identified the 4 bodies, and they have agreed to come together with the embassy to bury them with the 7. So it will be 11 bodies on the day of the funeral.
Rock of Ages Funeral Home on Wolf Road and Pinedale Street is stepping up to the plate once again to assist the Haitian community and will prepare the bodies and handle the funeral. In 2008, the funeral home lowered the cost to bury more than 10 Haitians who drowned off of Bimini in another illegal human smuggling operation. According to counselor at the Haitian Embassy, Jean Senatis, the embassy will cover most of the funeral costs. The pastors say they will ask Haitian business leaders to assist where they can. The spokesman for the Coalition of Haitian Pastors said the close-knit Haitian community is still devastated by the tragedy.
And our hearts really go out for the family of those people. We are one body, we are one family. If one member suffers, all of us are suffering. So therefore, it's really hard to see our brothers and sisters, perishing in such a tragic accident.
The 25-foot vessel Cozy Time went down 2 Sundays ago with 28 passengers. According to a survivor in police custody, the boat was headed to Florida. Assistant Superintendent Loretta Mackey told us that each passenger was allegedly charged $5,000 for the voyage. Father Laverne said that while many Haitians choose to leave the Bahamas and pay for the dangerous journey, he believes they're still the victims. He urged the Bahamian government to crack down on human smuggling.
It is not fair because when we look at the children, they were in school, and to see them now in the morgue, it's really hard. I think that's something that needs to stop because it's a lot of people benefiting from smuggling, from human smuggling, and that has to stop.
There's still no confirmed date or venue for the funeral. However, pastors say they hope to have those 11 victims of the Cozy Time tragedy buried this Saturday. Reporting for NB12, I'm Nikia DeVoe.
Now that the government has changed, the attorneys who represented former Deputy DPP Cheryl Grant Bethel in her case against the Judicial and Legal Services Commission say they'll wait and see if Prime Minister Perry Christie will actually do something about what brought them before the courts in the first place before taking further action. Charisma Robinson reports.
The Judicial and Legal Services Commission today dropping its appeal against a Supreme Court decision to pay 90% of costs associated with a judicial review brought on by former Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Cheryl Grant Bethel.
Outside of the appellate court this morning, Grant Bethel's attorney Wayne Monroe explained whether this means that the judgment by Senior Justice John Isaacs now stands and whether the 90% he ordered to be paid in costs last April will now have to be translated into a dollar value.
The judgment from Justice Isaacs always stood. It was just awaiting the disposition of the appeal. They've withdrawn the appeals. As you would have heard, there were costs associated with them withdrawing the appeal, and there will be a process by which we ascertain what the costs are that are payable before Justice Isaacs and here.
More importantly, Monroe says this case is fundamentally about a very important post. Grand Bethel applied for a judicial review after the JLSC transferred her from the Department of Public Prosecutions and appointed her Deputy Law Reform Commissioner. She had applied to head the prosecution's department. However, the JLSC decided that she was not fit for the position because of unfounded information contained in a report from the Security Intelligence Branch of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. The JLSC did not allow Grand Bethel to defend herself against the allegations contained in the report. Monroe says to have Grand Bethel in law reform and revision and not as DPP is an indictment first on former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram's government and will be an indictment on the Christie administration if something is not done about it. Prime Minister Perry Christie has said to reporters that he would personally look into the matter to determine whether Grand Bethel should replace DPP Vinette Graham Allen.
We have done the matter before Justice Isaacs. Justice Isaacs, although he vindicated Mrs. Grand Bethel, stopped short of sending her back because he said the then Attorney General evinced an intention not to work with her. Then the price that they must be made to pay will ultimately be a political one. Because it's their choice. We're in serious trouble in this country. People getting killed in the street every day. The people are going on bail every day because the matters aren't being tried. I would think that the public deserves a DPP who can actually successfully prosecute.
Monroe says the legal team is now taking a wait-and-see approach. Meantime, Monroe was not able to say how soon they will receive payment for legal fees, as it depends on the position the commission takes. Reporting for NB12, I'm Charisma Robinson.
And back to Sandilands, a new multi-million-dollar facility being constructed at the Rehabilitation Center is expected to be commissioned next month. The building is over 30,000 square feet and costs the government more than $8 million. Managing Director of the Public Hospitals Authority, Herbert Brown, says it will house the Robert Smith Ward, which caters to physically and mentally challenged individuals, as well as a special education school.
It will also house the Child and Adolescent Unit, which is a 36-bedded facility, and it is designed to be able to accommodate children with behavioral problems. It will also have other support services to be able to meet the needs of those persons who will be housed in that facility.
The National Insurance Board paid for the new facility, but will turn it over to the PHA at the end of July.
When you compare the facility today to what is like now, you would readily see that it is a better laid out facility. It has more support services, and I think at the end of the day, the staff would be able to provide the level of care to the patients that they need.